If you were making a list of the best American power soccer players in 2026, my two guests would be on it. Riley Johnson, Zach Dickey. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, man. And Riley's definitely
thanks.
on the list, but I don't know if I'm making that these days. But
They were
we'll see.
okay, but they were doing this, weren't they? I saw these online. People were like drafting, and you were both on lists. I saw it.
I made
I
a
didn't
few
make
of
it
them.
up.
Riley made all of them, but I made
Riley
a few
made
of
them all. Yeah,
yeah.
Of course.
I'd definitely be on the list of coolest hat.
Are you gonna do the line? You got to do the line. He was doing the line before.
Yeah, do it, right? Come on, you know you want to.
All right, let's get started. Oh, that was shaky. That was shaky.
Hey, it wasn't your best, but we all know you're camera shy, right? So it's okay.
Guys,
all right.
I invited you both on the podcast today to chat because recently you've both had the opportunity to go play for club teams overseas, an opportunity that very few American power soccer players have had a chance to do. Riley joins us currently from Australia. Riley, talk to everybody. Explain it to us like we have no idea. Where are you? What are you doing? And what brought you to Australia?
Well, I barely have any idea of what I'm doing and where I am, so I won't be able to tell you much. But no, I'm in Sydney, Australia right now. They have the nationals, similar to the ones in the U.S., where clubs across the country come and play. And I'm a marquee player, which is something that we don't do in the U.S., but they do often here in Australia. They bring a player overseas and play on one of the club teams. And Zach has already done it. Natalie Russo done it a while ago. Players from countries, Chris Gordon, I believe, came over here. So I'm not the first, but I've been wanting to do it for a long time. So, yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Zach, tell us about your experience. You were just in England, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to England just about once a month these last couple months. I was there a couple weeks ago. My first trip was I think March, and then last one, yeah, I don't know. I'm going back and forth a lot. I think it's a total of 4 trips. They also allow marquee players, but normally their marquee players aren't coming from so far because it's a sustained league where they're meeting 5 times a year, and it's a balanced schedule. So you're playing each team, I think, twice. And so while I joined West Brom, Chris Gordon's team that kind of invented like 4-up and a lot of like the passing that I'm trying to teach at Auburn now. So that was really why I got over there. Or wanted to go over there so bad. But yeah, it's been a great opportunity. Like I said, I'm there for like 4 days at a time. My cat just popped up, but I'm there for like 4 days at a time. When I joined West Brom, we didn't have a chance to win the league, but they also have a cup that runs kind of congruently with that part of the season. So May 9th is Cup Day, and we made it to Cup Day. So there's 3 games for that, and it's 3 games in a row, and it's all on the line for that. Yeah.
Love it.
It's also hilarious to see Zach have to deal with all the jet lag back and forth.
I get very confused.
I went to England one time for 3 weeks and I was confused. So going there once a month, that seems like would be a lot for sure. Guys, I'll ask the same question of each of you. Riley, we kind of chatted about this before. How did this come to be? I mean, what was it like to get the call? How did that happen? And what was sort of the catalyst for going over to Australia?
Yeah, well, I got a message from Ben Keat. And I had known of him. Zach had told me a little bit about him, but I didn't know him personally. And he asked, hey, can we get on a call? And this was right around when the announcement that I joined Power Soccer Shop came out. So I'd been getting a lot of calls from people like, hey, I want to talk to you about Power Soccer Shop, and like I've got some ideas and all that. And so I thought it was one of those calls. I was like, okay, cool. I'll hop on a call. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm waiting for the like, oh, I got an idea for you. And he's like, no. And he's like, you want to come play in Australia? And I was like, oh, I had some words that I probably won't say on the podcast, but it was not what I was expecting. And I was like, wow. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, I got to think like, can I make this happen? Because it's a lot of work to get all that lined up. Like having someone with you for caregiving. Can I take off work? Like, I've been asked many times, but like it didn't work out. Like for work, I'd have to take out a lot of vacation. But with Power Soccer Shop, it's like part of my job now, and so of course I had to run it by. And when I said, "Hey, I got an invite to go to Australia," they're like, immediately they're like, "Yes, you're going." So I didn't have to worry about that, whereas previous jobs I would have. So yeah, now we're here.
Fantastic. Zach, how did it come to be the West Brom connection? How did that start?
Well, really, it all started with that same guy, the crazy guy that, like I said, crazy. And I want to say a bunch of words that I probably shouldn't say on the podcast, but Ben, that's it. It all started with Ben, ironically, for me. So my first trip overseas was with Western Sydney Wanderers. I played in the World Cup, and one of the goals I had in that tournament, along with, trying to win that gold medal, which we came up short, was I wanted to get signed by an international club. That was like always been a dream of mine to play overseas. And I kind of just told my dad, I was like, this is going to happen while I'm here. And he's just like, sure, man, whatever you say. And then by the end of it, Ben had sent someone in a car, Steve, who plays, rather get to meet him, actually named his kid after me after the tournament. But he sent Steve in a car, and I'd never met Steve. And Steve drops me off like this little briefcase thing with the Western Sydney Wanderers logo. It's got a couple jerseys in it, a name tag thing, and
Wow.
and then Andy, another guy on the team, he's great, had sent me like what my mock-up of me in the jersey would be like, all the social media posts they would make. So it's something I just kind of like, I hate to say like manifest or anything that those crystal girlies would say, but like that's really what it felt like. And Ben saw me loud and obnoxious scoring that first goal against Australia with the headband on, and was like, I want him. And then everything kind of came from that because we won that year. I think the Western Sydney Wanderers were second to last or last in their local league. And we signed, and we just went on a miracle run, man. We were passing the ball too. It wasn't just a one-man show. It was like everybody stepped up. We won based on the power of friendship, I'm pretty convinced. But because of that, we got to go to the Club World Cup. America didn't send a team to the Club World Cup. So it was my only opportunity to really go. I got to go with them. We played Chris's team, and I told Chris, I was like, listen, man, like this is what you guys are doing. I'm trying to teach at Auburn, and I feel like if I come there, it's going to be kind of a fast track to, thank you, learning that system and getting to play for Colin Gordon, the guy who came up with a lot of the tricks that are involved in 4-Up. It was a really cool experience. So yeah, it all started with Ben Keat, and Ben.
You mentioned, Zach, like it was something you want to do and you manifested it like a crystal girly. I know that a lot of like the young folks watching this show always ask, right? They ask coaches, they ask their teammates, they ask me in the gym, what do I got to do to, whether it's make Team USA or get looked at for these types of overseas opportunities? I'll ask both the same question, but we'll start with you, Zach. If you had to tell one of the young kids, like, what do you do? What are you looking at, focused on to elevate your game to that level?
Yeah.
What is it?
I think it's being incredibly arrogant when you're on the court. You should 100% believe that you are the best player while you're playing, but while you're training, you should know that you're not. And you should work off to be a whole lot better. Like I train, Riley knows probably more than anybody. A lot of that's because of my opportunities here at Auburn. But even before I was mandated that I was running practices and running these trainings, I was training a lot. Riley is too. And it was because I was trying to chase guys like Riley. And before Riley, I was trying to chase Michael. And whenever I wasn't playing, I was so mad that I wasn't as good as them. But then when I played them, if you would have put me on a lie detector in the middle of that game, I would have guaranteed that I said that I was better than them all the time. And I think that's something that it's I don't know if it's disability, if it's parents, if it's soccer's kind of a gentleman's sport, but there's not enough arrogance from these kids out here. they should be more arrogant because they're better than they think they are. And it's just like, I mean, if they just believed, they'd be kicking our asses all the time because a lot of them have skills that me and Riley did not have at that age.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's my biggest thing is, yeah, be arrogant on the court and humble off.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Sorry, Riley, go for it.
No, I was gonna say you gotta have that dog mentality out on the court, giving you the confidence that you can do the things and be bad while doing it. Yeah, and we didn't have many of these opportunities internationally, especially when I was younger. I don't think there was any. I think the first overseas trip for anybody was Natalie Russo back in 2019.
Mhm.
So I hope that this Zach and I going over gives more opportunities for others. Like I want to see many other players get this opportunity because you get so much out of it. I mean, I haven't even started the tournament yet. I've had some friendlies and practices, and I'm thinking about the game differently. I'm thinking about leadership differently, and I want more of that opportunity for others. And yeah,
I love that.
This is a stepping stone towards that.
I love that. Guys, those were such good answers. I'm going to end on that. I'm going to let you get back to your busy lives, your side gigs, as Zach calls them. Riley Johnson, Zach Dickey, thank you so much for taking the time. Best of luck in your international and domestic competitions. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Shout out, man. Appreciate you.
3 in the Box is not affiliated with USPSA or its board of directors. Bill, Josh, and Nikki make this podcast. Our views are our own, and the views expressed by our guests are their own. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to represent the views of any organization unless expressly stated.
This is a Facade podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 3 in the Box podcast, powered by Power Soccer Shop. I'm Bill.
I'm Josh.
I'm Nikki, and this is 3 in the Box.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of 3 in the Box Power Soccer podcast, powered by Power Soccer Shop. I'm here, as always, with my good friends Josh Berger and Nikki Dwyer, and we are joined tonight by my very good friend, really, I'm not just saying that tonight, it's Ryan Nell. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Our absolute pleasure. For those who don't know, Ryan he's not only one of my best friends, he is the goalie on my rec team, the Wisconsin Whitetails, and was goalie for Wisconsin Warriors for a long time when we were doing that together. Ryan was a part of some of these conversations around exactly what we're talking to you guys about tonight, this competition restructure from USPSA. Josh and Nikki and I have spent a bunch of time looking at this, hearing about it. Ryan's been a part of some of those conversations, and so we're just going to try to talk through it. Josh, Nikki, first impressions, where are we at?
Oh man, where do I begin? Well, I mean, we just had a tournament in Folsom, California, and there was definitely some mumbling going on because it did just come out on Friday. So people were asking for my opinions, and I said, well, you know what? I think about this and that. But wait till we talk about it on this podcast. So people are definitely talking about it already. Some people are leaning for it. Some people are unsure about it. They want more information about it. But none of the people that I talked to said, no, I don't want this. They're definitely more open-minded than I originally anticipated.
Yeah, it's very similar. A lot of people have reached out to me just asking in general, wanting to start conversations about it. And some of us went to the first town hall that was scheduled, which shared a lot of information. And so if anybody has the opportunity to go to one of those or watch the recordings afterwards, that's a very helpful resource.
For sure. So for you guys watching this, the four of us are recording this on Monday night. You're going to see it on Tuesday. We had a chance to go to the Eastern Region Town Hall, Josh, Nikki, and I, which was this morning in real time, yesterday morning, if you're watching this when it comes out. we got to hear a little bit of the conversation. The first thing I would say, just introductory, is if you haven't gotten a chance to watch the infographic or the video that USPSA put out, I highly recommend watching that. It isn't fully comprehensive of the plan. I would recommend the town hall presentations for that, but the video really helps sort of break down exactly like the hierarchy of sort of what they're doing, which is essentially at a very, very high level, sort of doing away with the 4 conference, everybody goes to national structure that we're used to. Instead, having 3 regional classic tournaments each spring, one for the West, one for the East, and one for the Central. You would go to your regional classic every spring, and then you would, from your regional classic, essentially decide whether you were a part of what we call the Ascent Conference or the Apex Conference. I don't know if they're calling them conferences, but basically there's 2 different levels of competition. It's really up to those teams which one they're in, but Nationals becomes a 24-team thing. Am I right? It's 12 from Apex and 12 from Ascent. Is that right?
I want to say yes. Yeah, that sounds right.
And then it's just those teams go to Nationals. And that Nationals is nothing like the Nationals we know now. It's a competition. It's not the big fanfare that we know now. So I'm going to give Ryan a chance, because Ryan, you've been a part of these conversations. You sat with me and George last couple weekends ago. We talked through this. You, as somebody who's not necessarily connected to all of the structure within USPSA, just want to play soccer. What's your reaction to this initially?
I mean, I think a couple of things. So I see this restructuring as sort of a necessity in terms of resources. Like Nationals is getting too big, too many teams, too many games to play to have it be all in one place, all at one time. And I think we saw that, especially over the last couple of years, and you guys feel free to weigh in on this, in terms of just like games running late, refs stressed out, refs running from court to court, not understanding where they're supposed to be, communication breakdowns because everybody's stressed to the max, trying to make sure that everything stays on time. And so just the communication piece alone, I think, is getting challenging, just because there's just so many teams and so many things going on. So I think it will ease, it's designed to ease some of that stress and also put more focus on those regional competitions, which, as I understand it, again, I'm not 100% informed on all of this and all the details, but as I understand it, the regionals will be focused on competition and sort of determining, who might be at nationals, that sort of thing. But also there's going to be other pieces to this. So one of the things I thought was interesting and was in the intro video that I watched was that ref training is going to be a part of these regional events as well. And I think that that's really, really sort of a cool thing, because I know that getting in new refs and getting them trained to the point where they feel comfortable and are passable at the job that they're doing has been a real stress and struggle for USPSA in general. So, for example, I think that that's going to be one really sort of neat part of this restructuring. Also, I think that as a player, I don't necessarily, and this is my personal opinion, I don't necessarily need or want all of the fanfare that typically would come along with nationals. So I'm kind of think it's really cool that it's going to be very focused on competition, and it's going to be going to be the best of those teams from both areas. I think that more truly represents in terms of competition what we would want sort of a national competition to be. It makes it higher stakes, which I think is exciting as a player.
No, I agree with Ryan on this. I mean, George also mentioned today in today's town hall meeting, and you guys will hear this today and tomorrow, that this is going to be merit-based style. If the proposal goes through, it means that your regular season will have a huge factor going forward. And these tournaments will now legitimately be tournaments instead of being game days. It's going to be actually matter. And then, and Ryan was saying about the referee thing, it's because we added four new teams to this year's national, I think we went from 114 total games to now 140 games total for all these referees to officiate, and it's not feasible. Like Ryan said, we are stretched pretty thin as far as referees. We need to get more referees. We need to go out and recruit more referees. But there needs to be a change.
Well,
I
on
don't
that,
know what Bill thinks.
no, I want to sort of stress the referee point, right? Because
Yeah.
Ryan, when we sat down with George a few weeks ago in Eau Claire and we chatted with him, like the thing that got me and led me to sort of, I don't know, go along with this a little bit, because I did not love this idea when I heard it originally months ago. But the thing that sort of convinced me was George, and I'm going to try to convince Josh to throw this up because George just sent this to me. There's a slide that, and we'll throw it up on the screen here quick if Josh will do it.
Yep.
There's 50 some referees. I'm not looking at the graphic. Forgive me. We'll put it up. There's 50 some referees in the league, but like, I don't know, like a handful of them have reffed like 80% of the matches, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that on a national scale, and you're trying to come up with enough referees for, what'd you say, Josh, 140 some
Yeah,
games
I think it was
at
something like that.
nationals? How are you having referees that are well trained and have not even trained, but like experienced at what they're doing, ref these matches that matter so much? We're putting an incredible strain on the dozen or so referees that are like taking the vast majority, I mean, like 80% of the matches that we have over the course of a season. That's an incredible amount to ask of folks who have been doing this a long time. And we need to find a way to scale up that pipeline of referees that not only get trained, but that will continue to go about the country and show up to nationals and want to go and ref these games. And we'll talk more about this, and I'll get into the weeds a little more as we go, but we need to address how we pay and how we incentivize refs more. But to Ryan's point, if we have these 3 regionals where we put focus on bringing referees, training them, and then also allowing them to get in game and learn with someone who can train them as they go, I think that'll be a huge piece of that.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know exactly how long these regional 4 days, I think, is, I remember now what I saw in the video. So 4 days, that's so cool. And I have another comment about the pipeline idea too, because it sparks something else. But in terms of the referees, you could essentially get somebody in. I don't know how long the training is for a referee. Maybe it's 1 day, 2 days. You could, in theory, get somebody in, get them trained, and get them in a real game in the same weekend, in the same 4-day tournament. And how cool is that? Because you're getting excited about getting in a game, and then boom, right away you can be next to a George Ostrom, you can be next to a skilled referee, and you can be in a game, like applying that knowledge that you learned just over the last couple of days. And I think that that's really sort of a cool thing, and it's a way to get people hooked, right? I think about when I first started playing power soccer, Bill and I will joke about this, right? But he was like, I know, he said it to me out loud, but I know he was also thinking in his head, like, I just need to get him to one practice. He just has to see one time what this is like, and I got him hooked, and that's exactly how it worked. And I think for a lot of these folks that are refereeing, if they're excited about it, that's sort of the same thing, right? I learn this knowledge, and then I get to apply it, and I get to officiate, or I get to shadow, or whatever it is, and then I get to see what that looks like in a real game, real competitive atmosphere. And I think that that's really awesome. And I think it's a good way to get people hooked. And that also, and speaking of that, I think one of the things I thought about when you said pipeline, Bill, was like, I think one of the issues with, recruiting new players, even a lot of the time, and Nikki and Josh, feel free to weigh in on this as well, obviously, is like, it's hard to get them to an event, to a place where it's like, come to nationals. That's the best demonstration of our sport, but that's a long drive for a lot of people, and never engaging really with power soccer before, it's going to be a hard sell to get somebody to travel to come to that. Whereas, like, if we have people that are interested, obviously we can invite them to individual team events and practices and all of that, but also we can say, hey, we've got this regional event, and then it's games with other teams, it's other teams going on, and there's going to be I imagine there'll be other sort of events or breakout sessions that come along with this 4-day event as well. So again, just a really good way to engage new people and get them excited about the sport. And that's the thing I think that's most exciting to me about this new format that we're gonna have is like I just see tremendous potential for engaging people in the sport of power soccer in a way that we really haven't had the tools to do before.
I want to correct something I said really quickly, and then I want to ask Nikki a question. I've got the graphic in front of me now. 9 referees in the United States have reffed 49% of games so far this season. 17 referees, including those 9, 17 referees have officiated 76% of the games that have happened so far this season. So that's amongst 56 trained referees that we have in force right now. So just to sort of
56.
Yeah, to round off, are repping 76% of the game. So I just kind of wanted to round off that point. I think everything about referees that we've said is fantastic. I want to ask Nikki quick because we were all in that Eastern Regional Director or Eastern Region meeting this morning. Nikki was in the comment section and Nikki was reading all of the things that were coming in. And I know Nikki was having some fun in there too, but Nikki, you were kind of keeping track of what some of the main feedback was. What was like the general flavor of that?
One of the main critiques was about classification system, which was in one of the categories. I can't remember which one. And then another critique was about traveling for those who have a hard time traveling, money involved, not being able to see everyone, which is a sentiment that I share because Nationals is a really cool event that's once a year that everyone kind of really looks forward to see everybody that's involved in power soccer that actually goes to Nationals. And so there's a kind of like sense of, I guess, a loss of that, type of like congregation yearly with this new system.
I think that's like the biggest, and it was my initial reaction too, but I think it's like the biggest thing is like everybody sort of has that emotional reaction to, Ryan was talking about what makes you fall in love with the game. I would argue the thing that makes most people want to play is going to a practice. The people that makes most people want to like keep coming back. And this is what made me want to keep coming back is like that first national tournament, right? Like that social like environment where like I met Nikki, I met Josh. Like that is such a huge part of my life that like letting go of that feels really tough. And I also think about the new players, bringing them in. Like we got to make these regionals really, really cool in order to make people fall in love with this sport as much as nationals makes everybody feel a part of this community.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like this goes through, it could be like a mini nationals all over the country.
I hope so.
And like I was saying, it's like that anonymous person said on the town hall meeting, like, I hate this less than I thought I would. And I share that same sentiment. Like, I was like, not a fan of it at first. And I'm like, the more I watched that video over and over again, and the more I thought about it, like, it kind of makes sense. Now, we as a podcast agreed that in this episode, we're not here to like persuade anybody to which way you should vote. We're just here to state the facts. But my initial thought, like the community aspect, what is this gonna do for us? It's gonna take a hit because there will be 48 teams and 350 plus athletes that are gathered once a year. This is what everybody looks forward to. But the sport is growing in the best way possible. Now, because it's growing, it's going to cause some issues. We can't do it at Turnstone anymore. It's just, as great as Turnstone is, it's only got 4 basketball courts. And we're getting stretched pretty thin. So, in order to move forward, I think, in my opinion, if we move forward, we have to kind of go with this new change.
I want to hit
on. I think. I'm sorry, Bill.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, and I agree too. I think I'm a little less in the camp of like I'm like necessarily super look forward to nationals to see all the people that I don't get to see because like I'm not really engaged at that level, so I get to see the folks that I want to see when I want to see them for the most part, and connect with them. But I see that's where I really see the regionals. Like you guys are talking about losing, a level of community, which I understand, but I also think like being able to connect with folks in your region as this grows, that's going to be a really powerful thing.
It's easy to say, let's split nationals in two, but that brings its own set of challenges, right? Like that brings, and it doesn't solve certain problems necessarily, like the ref shortages and what Ryan's talking about travel and having different events in different regions.
Mhm.
I wanted to just quickly, and I'll get you guys' all response to this, hit on a couple of the things that I had asked Nikki about that she mentioned from the conversation today. Two of the things we didn't mention when we introduced this at the top of the show and Josh, I'm going to ask you for one more bit of work. I'm going to have you throw this slide up for me too, that these slides are from George's presentation at the town hall. So I got a second one here. This is how it breaks down the leagues into recreational, in which not much changes for recreational teams like ours. Still a non-competitive format. You don't have a league or game requirement. USPSA's rules of the game and no classification. If you look at how Ascent and Apex are broken down, though, that Apex League does two things that are different than what we have now. It uses a classification system, which is only used in international play right now. And I know that freaks a lot of people out, but we'll talk about what it really means. And then we'll go to FIFA rules, which is, again, international rules of the game, which on that specific thing, and I was kind of scribbling notes as I was thinking about this today. You know, I complain a lot about, and you've heard me, if you watch this show, complain about we should make our rules our own. And this is my opinion, but we should make our rules our own. We should do the things that benefit us. I almost kind of like having FIFA rules for the Apex guys and a different set, maybe not different, but like a differently applied set of rules for the Ascent group, because it does allow us to do things that we want to experiment with, like the penalty kick rule that we're always complaining about, right? It gives us the opportunity to tweak and play with those things and work with our referees in terms of how we implement them at the like growth levels of the sport. So I want to kind of touch on that. And then I've got some notes on classification, but I'll get you guys' response before I move too much further. On classification and the rules split. What do you guys think?
Well, on the classification thing, I think it's really interesting. I think it would be good for the sport because everybody wants to know what they're classified as. And George brought it up in the town hall meeting that in order to legitimize our sport even more in the eyes of the IOC and the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee, they want classification because every sport across the Paralympic catalog has classifications. We don't. So in order for us to set our foot into the door of the Paralympics, we have to be able to do classifications.
And I actually think that it made me think. So, my favorite sport to consume is baseball, right? So, when you said doing things at the development, the growth phase of the sport to then implement at the apex level, if you will, I think that that's sort of a really interesting thing because that's how baseball does it, right? All their rule changes they end up implementing at the minor league level, and then once it works, they institute it at the major league level. And so I sort of think about it very similar in that way. And so I think that provides a good opportunity to sort of parse these things out as we sort of have them happening in real time and figure out if they work before we put it at our top level of the sport. So I think that that's awesome. I think classification is going to do some really, really, really cool things and some really interesting. People are going to be very frustrated. Certain people are going to be very frustrated because I think it's going to change how certain teams have to approach how they're doing their lineups and who they're putting on the floor. So I think it's going to create some, I don't know, we'll say, I'm guessing it may create some more parity between teams and conferences in our sport, which I think is a really incredible thing. And I think that it's going to maybe put some egos in check too, which is not a bad thing which is not necessarily a bad thing either, personally. So
one thing in the spirit of what we were talking about with like implementing rules at Ascent and seeing how that works, we also have within the USPSA rules this PF2 thing or PF2 plus thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if Ryan would necessarily have the context for this. I'm really just learning about it as we go through this whole process. But at the international level, we used to have PF1s, 2s, and 3s. And recently they said PF3s, you're out. You can't play power soccer anymore. You've got too much, for lack of a better word, ability, right? You're not disabled enough.
Yeah.
This is just Bill Schultz talking right now, just me, the guy. But like, we got to do everything we can to protect this PF2 class at the domestic level. Because for me, or PF2 plus, I mean, because for me, it's all about access to this sport. And as like a disabled guy who uses a wheelchair, like I want all those PF3s or PF2 pluses to show up, hop in a chair, and try to play us, because I think that our sport levels that. I think that our equipment and the game we play levels the playing field. And I get the thing about you don't want 4 PF3s on a team who can like move their necks and see the ground. I understand why that's an advantage, right? But I also think that it is the coolest thing about our sport is that those of us who get deemed like severely disabled in those silly terms that we hear all the time, we can play and compete against people that don't have those labels, and we can compete and win championships and win trophies. And so I think it's a cool aspect of this that we're going to still include those folks and have a space for those folks and a place for everybody to compete. That's in the spirit of the game to me.
Wait, hold on a second. So let me just make sure I heard you correctly, Bill. There is something happening where those PF3s, those least disabled folks, if we can say that for the sake of the conversation, are being excluded from
they have been excluded at the international level. They're no longer allowed to play on international teams.
Oh, I don't like that at all. I think that's terrible. Why would we do that? Who do I talk to about that?
We'll get you some phone numbers and email addresses, Ryan. I promise. I would be more than happy to be CC'd on those. But yeah, I agree 100%. And I think it's one of the coolest parts of our game that we have, a spectrum of different disabilities that play this game. And we've got
also not only because I want to beat those people, but it's also like, where do those folks go then? Like, what are they doing? Because
agreed.
Like, power soccer is like the only highly organized, actually competitive sport that people in power chairs can actually play. And that is the one thing, and you can attest to this, like when Bill asked me to come play for the Warriors 8 years ago, 7 years ago, however long ago it was now, that was like my primary question is like, is this highly organized? Is it actually competitive? Like, I'm super stoked on that. So like, where do these folks go now if they want to play a competitive sport? We got, not only do I want the chance to beat them because they have more ability, or in theory possibly more skill because of their natural ability to move their bodies, or more chance to be good. I want to be able to put myself up against those folks competitively as a player and be able to play against those folks and be successful. So don't take away my opportunities. Don't limit my opportunities to beat someone. I don't like that. And also, like main point is like, what do those folks do now? What's left? Where can they play? What can they?
Well, they can play here in the United States, and that's what I like about it. Yeah.
Right. So I think, I'm with you then. Oh, that's what you were saying. We need to protect these folks here. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. I think that, I think it's silly when we talk about exclusion of people with disabilities in general, and then we're excluding people with disabilities from our sport, it seems kind of like a really silly thing.
I agree with you. And there are a lot of those people, right? Because we have people with like, and I heard somebody say this in the meeting today, like people with MS, right? Like physically, capable of walking across the room in some cases, but definitely not able to, in some cases, propel a manual chair and play another wheelchair sport. So I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Josh, Nikki, anything else we heard or anything else we haven't covered so far? I feel like this thing is so deep. I mean, I can't encourage people enough to go out and watch the videos and go to the meetings, but what else you got?
I mean, There's a lot of questions to be answered. I still have a lot of questions that I need answered. I know that a document will be coming out pretty soon. That could be very involved document. I encourage everyone to read it. But another thing, like, there's gonna be, when we have something this magnitude of a change, there's could be growing pains. But like we have said at the top of the show, there has to be a change. I don't know what that looks like, but it needs to be something.
Can I ask a question
Of course.
about?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you guys know about this, but there was something in the video about you being able to move team members between Apex and the
Yeah.
I forget the name of the Ascent.
Ascent,
Apex and
yeah.
Ascent. Yeah. Which sound like, body spray scents when I think about it. But anyway, so Apex and Ascent, so you can move players. Apparently, I don't know really anything about it, but I thought that was interesting, and I certainly have some questions about how that works. So
Yeah.
if any of you have any insight into that piece, that'd be awesome.
I got nothing on that one, but that's where some of my questions are.
Nikki, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about what I know.
Yeah.
And that is that the way that we heard it today in the Eastern Regional Town Hall was that if you are within the same state as a team or within 150 miles of another team, you can basically create like what teams like Atlanta Sting and teams like Minnesota United have, right? Which is where you have like an A team, your main team, and then you have an academy team. As I understand it, you don't have to call yourselves the same thing. Like we could theoretically do it as Wisconsin Whitetails with the Chippewa Valley Hooligans. And, however that broke down, one's the A team, one's the B. And up until a certain point in the season, you can move players between rosters. And then at a certain point in the season, those rosters lock and you become a part of that roster for like the main competitions of the season. Okay. Now, they went on and on about this in the town hall. So I would encourage you, again, go to your town hall and listen to George talk about this because there's way more detail than that. But that is the essential premise of that part of the plan. So I want to hear more from our friend Nikki on some of this stuff because I know we've talked a lot offline. All four of us have had conversations all together and separately and in pairs. And I know that Nikki has some stuff that, we just haven't chatted a little bit about yet. So Nikki, let's hear some of the things that you think about this proposal.
I think that everyone that worked on it put in a lot of hard work, and I respect that. And I definitely think the most shocking thing was the ref chart, where we saw that like maybe 50% of refs like weren't reffing at nationals, I believe it was. And that's a tough challenge. But I also think that this proposal is going to be difficult for a lot of teams that don't have a lot of resources, specifically like traveling to the different regionals. Like for the people that do want to see everybody once a year, like not everybody can afford to, travel from one coast to another coast just to see their friends if they're already competing in their own regional that's like closer nearby or whatever. And I also think the classification system is going to be difficult for a lot of people. Again, without a lot of resources, like let's say you only have 4 or 5 people on your team already, and you don't have the certain number of PF 1s and 2s that are required to be in the section that you're in. Again, I can't remember which section is which, but let's say you don't have enough players. I know some people in the comments were bringing up ideas of recruiting, which is, easier said than done. Recruiting is something that's necessary, but also let's say again, you only have 4 players, so it's going to be difficult to like all of a sudden double your roster just so you have enough PF1s and PF2s. And what if the only people you can recruit are all the same classification? And how does that help your team? So I think in theory, they're great ideas, but also not everybody can necessarily meet the requirements who want to compete.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
I was just going to say, is it feasible? with the, how many PF2s you can have on a team and how many PF1s on it. So if you're short on players and you find somebody on the street that's clearly a PF2, well, there's nothing you can do about it. So that's the question I like to ask for the next couple of weeks with the USPSA.
And it does sort of limit your ability to, right? Because they say, well, you can choose to just play in Ascent then, right? If you have
Right.
all PF2s. But
Right.
what about the players that don't want to just stay in Ascent, that want to get up to Apex? I mean, like, I can confidently say that everybody on the screen right now is not going to be satisfied if you hit that top level of Ascent and can't go any further because you've got recruiting issues or you've got classification issues that are blocking you from doing it. So it's a fantastic point and something that needs to be addressed. And I have beefs with this too, right? Like I mentioned slightly, but I really do think we need to address this team swap stuff, right? Like, Ryan and I are in a situation where we're on a team in Wisconsin where we have two teams in the state right now, but no disrespect to Chippewa Valley, we're in the same situation. We're both kind of teetering on the precipice of not having enough players to do what we do, right? So there is a very reasonable, foreseeable, less like non-zero chance that we end up with one Wisconsin team in the not so distant future. If that becomes the case, what about teams like us that don't have the benefit of being able to swap players back and forth? And that addresses Nikki's concern of like, we don't have another team where we can just swap PF1s out or something like that.
Right.
So these are all legitimate concerns I think need to be dealt with before we implement this.
Yeah, if you absorb, hold on, please. If you absorb Chippewa Valley Hooligans, where's the nearest team to you?
Well, I'm not saying that we're going to absorb Chippewa Valley.
Right,
That's not what I'm suggesting.
For an example,
I'm just saying if we were to, in a not so distant future, end up in a situation where we had to join forces, the nearest team to us would be one of those Minnesota teams, whether it be United, Shockwave, Northern Lights. I think, I don't know, Ryan, what is that from lacrosse? Maybe 200
miles, like 180, 200 miles, something like that.
There you go. Yeah.
Over 150.
Yeah, over 150 for sure. Yeah.
Right.
And like our nearest team is like 8 hours away, so we're definitely not swapping.
Yeah, so what about Tidewater?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, can we join up with Tidewater? I'm for that.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, let's do that.
Wisconsin and Tidewater. Call it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, so this is the thing, and this is something that we talked with George about a couple weeks ago too, is like that again is part of these regional competitions is going to be focusing on recruiting and how they might do workshops of like how to recruit, how to fundraise, how to do things like that, right? So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, still in infant stages here, but like I think that is going to be one of the things that is addressed at these regional competitions. But
I agree with you, Ryan, that we can help teams get better at recruiting, but you can't pull water from a dry well, right? And at a certain point, you run out of disabled players that can join your team in a certain area. I mean, it just is the case, right?
Yeah.
Like we're in probably, Ryan, a smaller market than most teams. Like we don't, like at a certain point, you just run out of wells to pull from. You and I have lived in this area for our entire lives, are pretty darn close. And we have gone to a lot of different places. We got 4 players right now, Ryan. And that's just the nature of it. So like, I hear what you're saying and I agree, but I think the point is super valid. Like at a certain point, like you can't pull PF2s or PF1s, I should say, out of thin air if they don't exist in your area. It's just not possible.
So the question, go ahead, Nikki, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree. And I think it's one thing to do a workshop on how to recruit, which I'm sure would be valuable to some degree, but it's also different to like run down the street after someone in a wheelchair and like check to see if they're a PF1 and if they can join your team or not.
Hey, it's like you ask, hey, can you give me a high five or a handshake? Let's see how
I've literally done that. I've literally went up to people in public and been like, hey, Power Soccer, you should play it. Like we've tried to do that pretty unsuccessfully, but we have definitely tried to do it. So anyway, I'm not saying, and I 100% agree with you, Nikki. It's one thing to put on the workshop and like present the resources. It's another thing to be able to capitalize on that, and so that that is yet to be determined, but I do think very valid points all around.
I agree. Maybe
You
we
got,
expand 150 miles to 500 miles.
or just say that teams can join up with that. I mean, because look at like even like Ryan was using a baseball example, but I'll even use a soccer example, right? Like USL teams used to pair with MLS teams, and it didn't matter geographically where they were. Like LAFC, their USL team was in Vegas, right? And it's the same in like baseball. You got a farm club that's, some of them now are more geographically close, but not all. I mean, like you could have a farm team in Florida feeding the Brewers sometimes, and it's just the way it works. So I don't necessarily I think when we talk about there are questions remain unanswered, I think this is one of them. Like, I'm not saying the four of us have the solution, but there are solutions to these things if we take the time and put in the effort to address the things that are wrong with it. I hope that we can make it work.
I agree.
Yeah.
We do need to wrap this episode up pretty quickly here, but I do want to say that today, when you're watching it, the town hall meeting for the Western Regional town hall will be at 6:30 Pacific time via Zoom link, and the Central Region town hall meeting will also be at 6 o'clock Central time. So please, please, please attend those meetings because you're gonna have a ton of questions, and we'll do the best to answer those questions on the fly in the meeting.
And none of these answers and none of our opinions are official, right? Like this
Correct.
is just us talking about what we know to the best of our ability. Next week, same time, same channel, we are going to have George Ostrom on the program. So next week, Tuesday, which is, I believe, the 21st, you're going to get another episode from us with George on here. He'll be talking about all the questions that came up in the town halls, all of your questions, and we'll kind of circle back on some of these things that we're talking about today. Go to those town halls, go to those meetings, ask your questions. And yeah, just, we've got, we go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just gonna say, and please feel free to comment on this video. Tell us what you think about this new proposal. We want to hear your opinions as well.
Yeah. And last but not least, I think like there are things about like we've sort of given a pretty neutral view of this tonight, right?
Yes.
There are some things about it that I don't love, and there are some questions that I'm going to ask in my own town hall, and some things. One of them being like about this team swap thing, and what about those of us that don't have a team within 150 miles or don't have teams in our state, or there's little things like that that I think need to be addressed and will be addressed. But like, what a really cool thing, Nikki, Josh, Ryan, that our sport has grown to a point where we need to really turn things on our head to keep moving forward. I think if nothing else, like we can look at this and say it's a positive thing for that reason. We love George, and we love George on this podcast, and we appreciate the efforts of everybody. I know some other folks had a lot of input here and put a lot of work in. I know Ginny Munson put a lot of work into this as well. So props to everybody who was a part of this. I think we are where we are. I think stay engaged, come back next week, hear what George has to say. Anything else, guys?
I think
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, Ryan. For Power Soccer Shop, go Power Soccer Shop. We are 3 in the box. We'll see you next week.
I don't mean to brag, but I'm the most humble man I know. I'm the most humble man I know, and I know every man like anybody knows me.
This is a Facade podcast.